Tibetan Temple, 1943. Two monks, a student and a teacher, fight each other with bamboo canes, literally floating in the air. Their skill is astonishing. The air is like water to them as they swim in it. The student defeats the teacher, and the teacher almost falls from the bridge, but the first one gives him a cane. On this day, the disciple disconnects from his teacher and forgets his name. The monk has already forgotten it. The teacher dedicates him to guarding the almighty scroll, which he has guarded for 60 years. Whoever reads the scroll aloud will gain power over the whole world, and this is not allowed. The teacher hands it to the monk, the clouds thicken and particles of energy fly everywhere. But the German soldiers are watching them, for this is the time of war. The monk turns into an old man after handing over the scroll and can finally rest after 60 years of service to the scroll. But as soon as they leave the temple, the teacher is shot by the soldiers. They want to seize the scroll and threaten to destroy the temple. The dying teacher monk asks his disciple for only one thing: to keep the scroll. The remaining monks are shot while the disciple hides in the temple to set a trap for the soldiers. When they approach the temple, he deals with the entire crowd in a couple of minutes. But the general himself survives and shoots the monk, who is standing on the edge of a cliff, trying to hide from his shots. The monk jumps off the cliff, leaving the general with nothing and saves the scroll. But is he himself saved? 60 years pass. A young boy named Carr picks pockets and earns his living that way. In the subway, he picks the wrong pocket. It turns out to be a policeman who handcuffs him. But, thanks to Carr's dexterity, the situation is reversed and now the policeman himself is handcuffed to the railing of the subway. The policeman relays information about Carr to his colleagues. In the meantime, our monk is hiding from the people who are still after the scroll. They both have to flee to the subway. This is where these two unrelated fates intersect, with the pickpocket thief on one side and the Tibetan monk protecting perhaps the most dangerous object in the world on the other. A little girl falls on the rails because of their pursuit. She is caught on the rails. The monk uses all his strength to save her. A frightened Carr jumps to him, trying to help him. Monk saves them both from the train that almost hit them. He tries to talk to Carr, but they don't really understand each other and Carr leaves. Monk feels he has said too much and apologizes to the guy. Carr accepts his apology and they embrace while Carr discreetly pulls something out of Monk's bag. It seems to be a scroll. Carr leaves and just as he comes around the corner, he is knocked down by the thugs and dragged to his boss. Their boss considers himself the king of the tunnel, that is, the subway, and does not tolerate thieves in his territory. Everyone knows about Carr's reputation. The guy shows his character and is not going to bend to the boss, but he has no choice. Now he will have a roof. As collateral for his escape, he gives the boss the scroll he just stole. Of course, he doesn't consider it anything of value and tosses it aside. The scroll is picked up by a monk, who has apparently been following Carr. A mob of bandits starts beating up Carr, and he manages to fall in love with the girl who beats him up. Carr turns out to be a masterful fighter, and a monk watching from cover sees this. The way Carr wields a metal pipe surprises all the bandits. He is familiar with Chinese fighting techniques. But due to excessive bragging, his pipe falls from his hands and it is a defeat for him. The boss's girlfriend, who he likes, saves him from a fight by distracting the boss and asking him not to touch the guy. The boss decides to leave Carr and leaves. After the fight, Carr meets a monk on the street who praises him for his skill at fighting. He really wonders how he knows all this. Carr says that he studied at the Golden Temple. This shocks the monk. A student of the great masters has become a common thief picker? How is this possible? Carr doesn't want to continue the conversation and walks away from the monk. At this time Jade, the boss's girlfriend, tries to get away from him, because she saved Carr precisely on the pretext of sex. The boss tries to find out who she is and where she came from, since she hasn't said a word about her past. Thanks to her charm, she manages to chain the boss and escape. On the way out, the girl asks her where the necklace is missing from her neck. The girl herself does not know it and has not even noticed the loss. It turns out, Carr really was in the Golden Temple, and it's still there. It's the movie theater where he works, and because of the run-in with the guys on the subway, he was totally late and didn't switch the reel on the projector. The audience is screaming and throwing popcorn at the screen. Carr puts the necklace he stole from the girl on the shelf. A monk shows up at his work and tries to find out details about Carr's life, but he is in no mood to talk at all and is going to fight the monk. But as soon as he tries to attack him, he sees the monk's reactions and punches, which can impress anyone, even a skilled fighter like Carr. Now their dialogue begins to take shape. The monk tries to figure out why Carr stole the girl's necklace. Carr says that it will help him meet her the second time he returns it, and then they will have something. The monk goes to bed at Carr's house, which completely surprises the guy, since he knows nothing about him. To Carr's question as to why the monk was being chased, the monk answers with another question. Why do they put hot dogs in a bag of 10 and buns in a bag of 8? Carr is utterly perplexed. The monk says that when the guy is enlightened enough to answer his question, he will answer Carr's question. Monk watches as Carr trains at night, checking his punches against those in a Chinese martial arts movie. The monk disappears. A subway girl arrives at the Human Rights Building, where an exhibition is scheduled to show the cruelty of the world. The girl wants to suggest the opposite idea, to show good, not evil, as it might have a bad effect on people. The organizer of the exhibition turns out to be a strange girl who works for a surviving German officer who tried to steal a scroll 60 years ago. She also happens to be his granddaughter. He is still searching for the scroll, even while confined to a wheelchair. The girl promises that they will find the scroll soon. Carr walks down the street and steals the phone as usual, but a moment later he himself is without the stolen phone. The monk picks it up and returns it to the man. Carr again does not understand what the monk wants from him. At this time, a girl appears on the street, determined to take the necklace from Carr. She guesses that a Tibetan monk is next to Carr and communicates with him in their language. But their dialogue is interrupted by agents who have been following the monk and a chase ensues. The monk pulls a magnificent stunt, jumping onto a moving car that knocks the agents down, knocking the guns out of their hands. He grabs the guns and shoots the agents and their pistols, disarming them without hurting anyone. Carr and the monk hide in a small Chinese cafe, where they are let in and allowed to escape. It turns out that beneath the cafe is a small temple where Tibetan monks live. The monk's friend can't believe that he wants to make Carr the scroll keeper, but the monk is convinced that Carr is the man from the prophecy. The monk offers him training in martial arts and Carr agrees. The girl tries to find Carr and enters the movie theater where he works. But he is not there, so she leaves a note. Carr and the monk begin training, in which the monk explains to the boy not to fight just out of spite. But they are attacked again by agents who almost kill them, sneaking up on them in a helicopter with machine guns on board. Monk hands the guy a scroll while he clings to the helicopter himself and disarms the agents. Carr covers him on the ground. However, he almost falls off the roof of the building, but the monk manages to save him in time. Except that the scroll ends up in the hands of a girl, the granddaughter of a Nazi. The monk decides to tell Carr about everything. The Nazi needs the scroll in order to destroy all races except the Aryan. And the scroll that the woman got is actually a recipe for chicken soup. The real scroll is right inside the monk's head and body. A Nazi granddaughter comes to the Golden Temple and kills Mr. Kojima, whom Carr loves so much. The monk tells Carr to forget everything and hide in a safe place. Carr finds the monk in the place under the cafe where the new temple was because he wants to help the monk lighten that heavy burden. But Nazi agents also arrive there because one of the disciples wanted to get hold of the scroll, so he gave away their whereabouts. They manage to escape, but where to go? Carr wants to go to the girl, which is where they are going. After they go through the fence, Carr needs to jump to the girl's window. The monk tells him that all he has to do is believe that the air is material and it will happen that way. Carr believes this and manages to sneak inside the house where the girl is sleeping. They try to talk during the fight, but the girl knocks out the thief and takes the necklace. A monk comes into the house and questions the girl, so why does she lead a double life? After all, she has such a luxurious house, and she runs the streets like a bandit. The girl says that she is the daughter of a Russian mafiosi, so she leads a double life. To evoke an attitude toward herself personally, not her status. Her nickname is the Witch. Monk notices that the name was mentioned in a prophecy, and moments later, Nazi agents attack their house. The Nazi's granddaughter, Nina, looks at the scroll tattoos on the monk's body while Carr and the girl drive an armored car to rescue him. The old Nazi man begins to read aloud the hieroglyphics from the scroll while a car with explosives is brought to their yard. Simultaneously, Carr and the girl make their way through the sewers to the monk and the Nazi. The latter begins to grow younger after he reads the hieroglyphics on the monk's body. But the last poem is not written on the monk's body, because he chooses to keep it for situations like this. Carr is washed away by the flow of water through the sewers, unlike the girl. She meets Nina in the sewers and they have a fight while the Nazi beats up the monk, trying to get the last poem out. He chains the monk to a machine that can be used to extract any information, but the monk manages to free himself. Carr is flushed into the lab, but the Nazi becomes so strong after reading the scroll that Carr can't stand up to him at all. The two of them fly around the building from the Nazi's blows. Breaking through a wall, they get into an elevator that takes them to the roof, where the Nazi is already standing. The monk talks Carr out of fighting him, but Carr is determined, which gets him in a lot of trouble and he ends up under a pile of pipes. The girl manages to defeat Nina in the fight, and she goes to free the imprisoned monks in the basement, whom the Nazi was mocking. The monk nearly falls off the roof of the building, but Carr arrives in time and grabs the Nazi to delay time for the monk. He escapes, but now Carr himself is in danger. The Nazi grabs him by the throat and holds him right over the precipice, forcing the monk to tell him the last verse. The monk says that Carr must believe that he will defeat the Nazi. And something amazing awakens in Carr, his eyes opening with a new power that makes him beat the Nazi, grabbing the railing with his legs and doing a huge somersault. And so he finds himself back on the roof, managing to push his opponent down. Monk hands him a piece of pipe, hoping to save him, for he has given him 60 years to change. But the Nazi says he will never change and the monk lets go of the pipe. The battle is over. Carr will become the next keeper of the scroll. Monk's time is over. He hands him everything he knows, as he once received himself. The symbols of the scroll are placed on Carr's body and he becomes the keeper of the knowledge. But a surviving Nazi bursts in and shoots them, hitting the girl. Carr dodges all of the Nazi's bullets and beats him. Carr notices the scroll symbols on the girl's body. The two of them are now the keepers of the knowledge, since they both fit the prophecy, and the girl catches the bullet with her hand. They kiss. The aged monk tells them the remaining verses of the scroll piece by piece. They bid him farewell, after which the monk immediately checks his pockets. He remembers all too well the first time they embraced. Carr stops the departing monk to say the answer to that riddle about donuts and hot dogs. The answer was that life doesn't always go our way, so we need to appreciate what we have.